Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Zelenskyy has been meeting President Macron in France. The French leader said that ongoing talks between the US and Ukraine could be a turning point after criticism that the current proposed peace plan favours Russia. President Zelenskyy says there have been improvements.
On the topic of security guarantees, we have concrete details from the US, concrete details from Europe. I'd say that these are the three main topics, tracks, but also triggers. We need to be very careful here. I thank our negotiation teams. The plan looks better.
Well, just before we came on air, I spoke to Yulia Sirko, Ukrainian MP, deputy head of the Kholos party, and I asked her if she was optimistic about the next phase of the talks.
This is not the first time Vitkov going to Russia, and unfortunately he is coming back with a very unfair for Ukraine ideas. There's like concession of territories, no security guarantees, decrease of the army, etc., etc. So unfortunately, no, because we see that Mr. Vitkov is more in favor to Russia than to Ukraine. So, but let's see what will be the outcome, because as you know, the devil is not in details, but in Kremlin.
That's the key point, isn't it? And we know that there were talks over the weekend between a team of Ukrainian negotiators and senior US officials, including the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. We had originally this 28-point deal, which was seen as, well, tantamount to surrender by Ukraine,
yes,
giving up territory, accepting restrictions on the size of its armed forces, giving up some of its most powerful weapons and so on. What is your understanding of how that deal has changed?
My understanding is that the Ukrainian delegation clearly delivered the message that we will not agree on the concession of territories, basically no decrease of the army, as well as no NATO refusal in the constitution. So I think we delivered messages, and I think that the plan was rewrite. But let's see what will be the outcome when Vitkov will come back from Russia, because it's a Ukrainian US plan, but I don't think that the Kremlin will agree on it, because today Putin signed the budget for 2026, Russian budget, with almost 40% of military expenses. And that's actually about the continual war and no plans to stop the war. And he also decreased social programs, but increase military spending. So it means that the country Russia has intention to prolong war, to no peace negotiations and peace deal from their side. What we can see from this signing of the budget, as well as the messages from Kremlin.
You said there should be no concessions on territory, but hasn't President Zelenskyy really accepted that if there is going to be a deal, an end to the war, that Ukraine will have to give up some of the territory which is currently occupied by Russian forces?
I don't think so. He said that we're discussing how these occupied territories will be staying, so to say, but there is two different things. One is legal concession of the territories, which is the rewriting borders, basically. And the other thing is that the Ukraine acknowledged that we cannot free territories, occupied territories now, but we are keeping it as occupied territories of Ukrainian land, and we'll see how to diplomatically or politically in the future solve this problem. I think that the Zelenskyy cannot actually even promise to rewrite borders or do concessions, because our land and our borders are in the constitution. And to change constitution, you cannot do it, first of all, during the martial law legally. And the second, you need at least 300 votes in the parliament, which it's impossible to get.
But could he not accept that Russia continues to occupy, to control these territories as part of a price of peace?
It's occupied and controlled by Russia. But we saw many examples in the world history, recent between Armenia and Azerbaijan and Karabakh, that the land was occupied for almost 30 years, more than 30 years, and then Azerbaijan deoccupied it. So, there are a lot of different kind of, so to say, peace. It's not deals, but it's like understanding that you cannot physically take your land back now, but it doesn't mean you have to change your constitution and rewrite your borders. So that's two different things.
How damaging do you think the revelations of the extent of corruption within Ukraine have been? We've seen Andrei Yermak, who was President Zelensky's most senior high-profile advisor, quitting from that post because of this. Do you think that that undermines Ukraine's hand in these negotiations?
I don't think so. I think it's two parallel processes. One is a corruption scandal in Ukraine, and it's really a big scandal inside the country. But what we can see that we have absolutely new anti-corruption bodies which can tackle and reach top corruption. And there is no untouchables anymore in Ukraine. So they reach even Yermak, who is one of the, as you said, powerful men around the Zelenskyy. Basically, it's his top 8. And that's our, so to say, fight inside the country.
But it does play into what Russia has been saying about Ukraine. Surely it makes it even more likely, perhaps, that the US will listen to what the Russians are saying.
Yes, they are using it, and unfortunately it came out in a very bad time, this scandal, but we have what we have. It's better to fight against corruption openly than to hide it. So yes, Russia and Russian propaganda will use it against Ukraine, but I don't think this will be the key discussion in US-Ukraine talks.
Where does this leave President Zelenskyy? Do you think this corruption scandal could force him from office?
I think he will stay up until elections, but I don't think he has this scandal actually decreased significantly his chances to be re-elected in the next political cycle, because it's really looked very bad when we are sitting 18 hours without electricity. And we see that some people around Zelenskyy is stealing money from energy sector and actually undermining the whole energy reconstruction process. So that's it's inside the country. It looks even more ugly than outside country, because really in my house, I don't have electricity. I didn't have electricity more than 26 hours during this weekend because of the Russian strikes and because of the mismanagement in the energy sector.
But you think President Zelenskyy is safe for now? Because clearly while the war is going on, there can be no elections.
I think he will not be re-elected. Let me put it in a diplomatic way. I don't think he has a chance to be re-elected.